This is The Resilient Life, where we believe that every human will struggle in this life. Our challenge is to struggle well. I'm Ryan Manion. I lost my brother to war, my mom to cancer, and I'm the daughter of a retired Marine. I'm also a wife, mom, author, and president of one of the nation's leading veteran service organizations. Join me and some incredible guests as we explore the value of struggling well through life's inevitable challenges. Welcome to the first episode of 2023 for the Resilient Life podcast. This is exciting. I'm so excited to be back in the studio bringing you these incredible conversations. And we are starting out strong with an awesome guest, First Lieutenant Riley Tejcek, a member of the U.S. National Bobsled team. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Riley, welcome to the Resilient Life podcast.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me. This is so awesome. I'm so excited to talk to you and really dive in more with you.
Yeah, so Riley is coming to us all the way from Germany. She is competing there. And, you know, Riley, I love when I started following you and tracking what you were doing. I was like, wait, she's a Marine. And then I'm seeing you bobsledding and I'm trying to put the two together. And I'm like, is she still in the Marine Corps? And you, in fact, are. You're at the Camp Pendleton. That's where my brother was stationed. So I love that connection. Yeah. And I would love to kind of talk about your journey to where you are, because it's not a typical one. And so I think it's really cool and unique. And I'd love to just kind of kick it off there. So let's talk a little bit about your background. You went to GW.
Yes.
And you were recruited there to play softball, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I played softball my whole life. My dad was a professional baseball player. And my mom was really big in academics and driving that factor into me. So I like to think I'm kind of a fun blend between the two of them. Decided to pursue education and sport in college. And it was such a blessing to play Division I, which was my goal, and get there. So that was step one of what brought me to here, because that's what brought me into being the Marine Corps, which then is what GW is also what brought me into bobsled. So that is like super critical and where I am and how I'm here now.
So do you come from a military family? What's the military background?
Not really. So like majority of people's grandparents served in some capacity. Right. So my grandfather, he played football at Wake Forest, and of course was very attracted to the Marine Corps, but like got in and out as like a Lance Corporal. Like he's like, I never served because of like my status and who I was. I basically was a Marine for like a year. And so other than that, I really didn't. And that's what's so crazy looking at my story and why I'm on this path, was that people were like, Riley, we always knew that you were drawn to the military, but we never would have been like, oh, she's going to go to the Marine Corps, or that's where she's going to end up. It's kind of funny looking back at my childhood that my father was my coach my whole life in sport, especially softball, with a softball baseball connection. And he loved watching and studying military videos. And right then is when like Navy SEAL buds stuff started to come out. So they started showing those documentaries of them going through that process. And I remember he would let me sneak down the stairs and like sit and like watch on the stairs of when the guys would like DOR and all this kind of stuff, and let me watch that. Or in softball, that's such a mental sport. We would talk about resiliency through trials, and the military was the best explanation of that. So he would have me read books as like studies and to like work on my mental toughness as a young woman athlete, especially in a sport that was full of failure. So the military mottos and mindsets were constantly ingrained slowly into my mind without me knowing it. But I always told people I never, as a little girl, envisioned myself in the Marine Corps, let alone the military, because I never saw women in those positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So growing up and I'm looking up, I'm like, well, that's not a job for me. And I couldn't even believe it in high school. I was like, I want to go to Washington, D.C. because I want to work on the war on terror. And that 9/11, I was 4. So no, I don't really remember it, but I know the repercussions of the aftermath. And I said, I want to go and I want to be a part on helping. I want to go and make sure this stuff never happens again and keeping people safe. So I was drawn to DC, and there we go. I stepped onto campus. In a couple weeks, I met a Marine recruiter, and they're kind of hard to turn down.
I love that. Yeah. And it's so true. Just the comparables between athletics and, you talk about that mental mindset that comes with the military. I see that. I see that with my daughter. My oldest is heading off to play Division I lacrosse at the Naval Academy. And
Nice.
so we already know that she's signed up for the military, but it's such a mental game for her. She has all the physical abilities in the world. But when she has a bad game, it's not because of her skills. It's because she has these mental blocks that she just has to get out of. And, it was interesting as she was going through this process. One of the things that we found is that, when she was younger and we would talk to her about, would you have any interest in the Naval Academy? She didn't see herself there, because she was surrounded by, in her world, a bunch of male Marines. My father is a retired Marine. My brother, who was her godfather, was a Marine, and all of Travis's friends were all Marines, right? And they were all male, right? And so it was just in the past few years that she, and really with social media, has done a great job of that. It was actually Jackie Barnum, who's a Marine. Yeah, and she's very active on social media. And my daughter started following her, and she was like, "Oh, wait, I see myself in her shoes." And I've had conversations. I was on Jackie's podcast, and I thanked her. I said, "I want to thank you," and I also got her on a Zoom with Maggie to like kind of talk through that and talk what it means to be a female Marine. But I was like, I want to thank you for giving like a face to a female in the military, and so I commend you on, kind of recognizing that and seeing that. And just kind of moving in that direction. It's not something that you would think as you're sending your daughter off to GW on a softball scholarship that they're linking up with a Marine recruiter to kind of change that trajectory. But I love that story. And so you graduate from GW. And do you go right into OCS?
So officer candidate school for me was my summers off.
Okay, so you did it through that program through college.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so my freshman year, I met the Marine recruiter within 2 to 3 weeks. It was crazy. I step on campus, I'm 18, I have freedom, the world is my oyster, and I call my parents and I'm like, "Hey, so I don't think I'm going to come home this summer. I think I'm going to go to this thing for the Marine Corps. It's like this officer candidate school. It should be, challenging and all this stuff." And my parents like freaked out at first. They're like, my dad was like, "Can you just focus on your freshman rookie season? Like, how about we work on getting like rookie of the year? Let's work on like getting you to college." And my mom's like, "Can you make it through your first semester and prove that you can handle the school and have grades, And slowly over time, they saw even the difference 6 weeks made of me. 18, Riley. It was 18 years old. I was one of the youngest ones there. And just in 6 short weeks, the change that occurred in my life and in my heart and how I carried myself forward. And my dad, I remember, bought me a rifle because he knew, he was like, "All right, like this is like, we're going to start practicing on shooting. Like your marksmanship is going to be important." And I came home and I was like, "Dad, time me." And I took it apart and put it back together. And as I'm taking it apart on the kitchen table, he's like, "You broke it. Like, what's going on?" And I was able to throw it back together. And he not only saw the skills that you learn, but also my mentality and the thoughtfulness for others and the selflessness and the things that the Marine Corps already was instilling in me. And my parents all of a sudden became the most supportive people in the world, where when I went back to OCS, because I was so young, I did the PLC 6 weeks. My dad tried to like Google like our workout routines or like workout PT plans, and he would PT on his own when him and I couldn't talk, acting like he was like going through it with me and like the struggles with me. So they were the most supportive people, but at first I think I definitely gave them a heart attack. And I think times talking about deployments and carrying on a career in the Marine Corps, makes it sometimes uneasy for parents, but they're so supportive and see why, because it's such a great organization.
So you graduate from college, and
Mhm.
what year did you graduate?
2019.
Right. And so like COVID hits.
Yeah. And that is a huge piece of my story and timing. So I finally go to the basic school, and COVID hits when graduation. And my family, we don't get family day. I don't get mess night. I don't get anything besides from celebrating my PFT and CFT. And we can be up against each other for that. But no, so like all the fun things are like ripped away from us.
Yeah. And for those that like that, for those that don't fully understand, like mess night and family day, those are, I would say, critical components to
Yes.
probably your mental well-being as you're going through this. I mean, it's huge. And so, you think about the kids that didn't have prom or high school graduation and all that, like this is just as high up there, if not higher up there on the scale of like importance in what you're missing.
Yes, 100%. I felt that. And, you put so much into something, and TBS is 6 to 7 months long, depending on when you go. And all I wanted to do was bring my family on to Quantico and show them where I was, and been like, oh, look at this weapon that I shot. Look at this. Like, this is where we would run our PFT, and this is where this happened. And this is where we would hike. And this is where it was 03 in the morning. And I didn't know if I was going to make it. And it was snowing and I was freezing, and I kept pushing. But knowing that I can still share those things with people, and knowing that I can still bring my family, that can still be a part of that, was so special. And then what I think draws me so close to you, especially, is Manion Hall was the barracks right next to me, and what that means. And when I wasn't necessarily the happiest when I became a logistics officer, because it was not my first choice, finding the history of that and what that means is amazing. And so, yes, I didn't get to have my family there, and I didn't get to experience all these things with these people that maybe I would have liked, but there was Marines there that brought us even closer, because we couldn't bring those outside families in. And there's so much ingrained history around there that makes that place special. And no, I didn't get those things, but I wouldn't have traded my experience for anything.
Yeah, I remember when Manion Hall was dedicated down at Quantico, we were obviously down there, and I don't think I recognized the significance of it at the time. I mean, I thought it was an incredible honor that they were naming this building after Travis. But then realizing all of these young Marines going through TBS that were going to be living in there. And,
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I am constantly meeting Marines that are like, I lived in Manion Hall.
Yeah.
And, I think the Marine Corps does a really good job of not just like naming a building and not making sure that they offer the significance of the name behind the buildings that these young Marines are living in. So like they all knew the history, and they have a beautiful display case for Travis right when you walk in. And when he graduated from TBS, kind of a cool story. Travis graduated at the top of his class. He was, top 10 in his class. And so he pretty much thought, and so did my dad, it was like, well, what's your pick, And so he was infantry first, and I forget was second. I don't even know if logistics was anywhere on his list. And he ends up getting logistics. And I'll tell you, like, he was not happy. He was like, what do you mean I got logistics? And, I'll never forget my dad saying to him, like, okay, you got logistics, like suck it up. It is what it is. And you're going to go be the best damn logistics officer there ever was. And, now the Marine Corps has the Logistics Officer of the Year award, and it's named the Manion Award. And, we laugh every year when we go there. It's such an honor. And I'm like, here we go, handed out this award for like, the logistician of the year. And Travis wasn't happy about being in logistics at first, but he went out and he was the best damn logistician that there was. And, people talk about like his precision and, how well he took care of the teams on that first deployment. Ultimately he went first recon so he could be a little bit more in the fight, but like he he really threw himself into embracing that logistics career and that path. And so, I think about that a lot when you kind of, you're faced with like these decisions and these choices that are sometimes made for you, and you can go one way and you can sulk and you can bitch and complain, or you can just decide to embrace the decision that was made, and you can go out there again and be the best that you can be at that. And that's what I loved about my brother, and I loved about the Marine Corps, is that I think they teach you those principles, and they teach you, listen, you're not always going to get what you want. It's not, there's no easy street here. But excellence is expected in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you can see of what I made out of what I was dealt. I mean, by no means logistics, I don't want to put it down too much. It's not a bad job, but it's not a sexy job. It's not a desirable job. Moving people from one place to another and efficiently. I mean, we think of Amazon, all these things. People love Amazon. People hate when your package is delayed. And then they want to like curse up a storm and scream and be mad that their coffee was delayed by 3 hours. I mean, that's like logistics to a T, right? I can plan and I can do everything and coordinate all these movements and all of these things. And if something goes wrong, people look at you and it's thankless. But at the same time, just because you work really hard, very similar to your brother, I finished pretty high up in my class, does not mean that you're just given things. And the Marine Corps and society sometimes don't always tell you that, or you don't always think that, well, I worked hard to deserve it, I should be given it. And it's like, no, and there's a bigger need than you and what you want. And, the Marine Corps comes first, and the needs of the Marine Corps and the needs of the Marines. And ultimately, what made me feel so good about it was either way, we're going to be leading Marines. Either way, you have Marines that are going to look up to you, that are under your charge, that you don't go away from basic officership. You just have a niche of a job that you get to apply that with. But it doesn't matter what job you are. If you're in combat and bullets come flying, you better be a rifleman. And that's what they train us. You're infantry first, essentially. And so I think that's like, you summed it up so well. What cards are you given? And are you going to complain about it? Or are you going to make the most of what you have and be like, wow, I never thought in a million years that I would be the first female Marine bobsledder to ever come. Because of looking back there, I didn't sulk, I complained. I said, okay, what can I do with this card that I was dealt? Or like your brother, everything that he's able to do, the legacy that he's left behind for logisticians. I mean, like, that's something we claim. Like, yeah, Charles Manion, yeah, he started as a logo. Yeah. Like, it's not a bad gig. Like, you can make stuff with it. You can be somebody, you can still go and fight and experience deployment and war and impact Marines and people around the world. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, that is definitely close to our hearts for sure.
I love it. So, okay, you mentioned it. I never thought I would be on the bobsled team. I mean, and like, let's talk about that. How do you go from, graduating from TBS and you're a new logistician in the Marine Corps, and next thing you know, you are on the national bobsled team? Like, how did that happen?
I don't think I ever would have thought in a million years, if someone would have told me back then, even before I went to college, Riley, you're going to graduate and you're going to go straight in the Marine Corps. I'm like, okay. I never would have thought someone would say, hey, as soon as you graduate and you finish doing all your military training, you're going to be the female athlete of the year for the Marine Corps. I would have never thought in a million years. And so how did this get here? I think the common theme is making the most of the situation that you're given and seeking opportunities. And something I like to live my life on is I'm always hungry. I'm always searching for more. I want to push myself mentally, physically. Where is that ceiling set, and how can I elevate it and keep pushing and keep pushing? It's not that I'm never satisfied, but I'm never satisfied. I like where I am. I like to accomplish goals, right? Like, sometimes I can relax and go to sleep at night because I'm like, I think I'm doing all right. But I constantly want more. And how can I challenge myself and make myself the best version of myself, not just for me, but to impact people around me? And so I get to my office and I'm stationed at Camp Pendleton. I become the S4 officer, which is a captain's billet. So as a brand new second lieutenant, I am the S4, not Alpha, the S4 of a logistics squadron of about 750 Marines.
Explain what an S4 is for those that
Yeah.
understand military acronyms.
Yes, essentially, I was put into a headquarters role and position to oversee all logistics for 750 Marines of a unit called MALS 39, which is Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 39. So essentially, our mission is to help support birds, helicopters up in the sky, and making sure that they're constantly ready to go for the pilots and everything's taken care of. So I'm seeing my maintainers, the people that runs like different supplies for the helicopters, avionics to do all of the high tech things in there, and the ordnance that literally supplies like the ammunition. And so I oversee all of this and how we get people from one place to another in deployments and this, that, and the third. So it's no light job for a brand new second lieutenant. It's not one that is slated for a second lieutenant. It's someone that's a captain, which is an 03, and I was an 01 at the time, brand new. And I remember having a conversation with my executive officer and commanding officer, and they're just like, Riley, we're so excited to have you. You know, this is a massive billet that you're going to be filling. And just so you can get in your head, like, you're going to be non-deployable. Our unit as a whole is non-deployable. We send segments off to go and detach, but you're one of one essentially. And this isn't normal, but as your time of lieutenant, you're not gonna be deployed. And for a lot of people, they might have been happy about that. And I was heartbroken. I went home and I'm like, no, like, that's all I want. Like, I want to be in the fight. Like, I want to be here because I want to train. I want to go to war. I want to help. I want to make an impact. And I'm like, I'm going to be sitting here at a desk for at least 3 years. Yeah. And then, let alone we're in the midst of COVID. So I was like, okay, well, let me shift my priorities and stay competitive. I want to keep competing. I want to have a reason to wake up every morning. Like, what goals am I trying to accomplish? And I was reached out to about the Marine Corps softball team. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'll join the Marine Corps softball team. It's slow pitch. I'll just hit a bunch of home runs. I'll travel. I'll try to represent like the whole branches in the all military category for that and do something fun 2 months out of the year. Well, nope, COVID shut all that down. So I'm sitting in my office one day and I'm like, man, like, I need motivation. I know that I wanted to go to the gym, but I'm like, PFT, I already crushed it. CFT is another 6 months away. Like, what am I doing? All I know is how to compete. And I saw that Bobsled was having a virtual combine due to COVID. And why I even saw that on my social media feed was because I followed a woman. Her name's Alana Myers Taylor, and she played softball at George Washington. So that's where that like plug and tie came from. And she's one of the most decorated bobsledders in the world. And she played softball at my school. So her jersey's retired, and we knew all about her. And in 2018, she actually came and spoke to the softball program and told us all about her getting her silver medal in Pyeongchang. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world. So then I started following bobsled. Well, here I am, desperate to find something to throw myself into to keep being competitive. And I saw that they had a virtual combine. I literally closed the door, found the coach's number, gave him a call, and was like, hey, coach, you don't know me. I don't even know if this is possible. I don't even really know 100% what this call is about to be, but I saw you have an online combine. Here's who I am. Here's what I plan on doing. And I hope to see you soon, because I'm going to put everything I have to see if I have what it takes to get an invite to come. And so I went home and I'm like, all right, let's see how I stack up against all of these people, right? I was in softball shape where I was super big, super strong, pumping up weights, trying to hit home runs. And then I transitioned in the past year to like Marine Corps body weight pull up, 5-mile run, 10-mile ruck shape. So I had a big task at hand, and I end up short term now, crunching 3 years into one, was invited, started right away as a pilot. So I drive the bobsled. And
Wait,
my third,
I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to know, like, so you're like, I mean, it's just wild. You just see something on social media and you pick up the phone and you're like, I want a bobsled. And I mean, that in itself is crazy, crazy awesome. But you decide you want to get ready for this virtual combine. How do you even figure out what that means to get ready? Like if someone said you need to get ready to try and compete in bobsledding, like I would have no idea. Like, did you just research it on your own? Like, what do I need to do to be competitive in bobsledding?
A bunch of research. I actually reached out to my head athletic department at GW and I was like, hey, I need to get in touch with Alana
Okay.
because she's still in the program. So they reached gave me Alana's number. I reached out to Alana. Alana gave me more coach's number. The strength coach called me, let me ask all these questions. The other teammate, Keely Humphreys, who actually is the most decorated bobsledder in the world, spends an hour on the phone with me. I'm asking all these questions, following all these people on social media, Googling, watching races. Like, okay, what is it that I need to do? And the conclusion was I need to be big and strong, especially lower body to push. I need to be fast and quick. And then I need to have the skill and work on the no fear aspect of crashing at 90 plus miles an hour down an ice track and having your skin literally get ice burned off in the process of that. So all I did was really started training. I called my old strength coach and was like, hey, like let's put a program together. And I submitted my videos.
Wow. That's wild. And have you done, before you submit your videos, have you actually done any bobsledding, right? You're stationed in
No,
Pendleton time, right?
no,
So you're basically submitting videos to say, I'm big, strong, and fast.
exactly. So just like an NFL combine, they're going to look at general thing.
Stats.
Can
Yeah.
you broad jump? What's your 30-meter sprint time? What's your lifts look like? Like those kinds of things is the gauge. Like, are you athletic enough to even be able to run and jump and push? So it wasn't necessarily super bobsled specific, but no, I'm like, I push prowlers for softball. Like I'll get it behind like the prowler sled that you see at the gym and stack weights and sprint off with it. Which is a helpful tool, but not at all what the sport is.
And
So
so
those
when
are some.
yeah, so when you get in there and are you thinking, okay, I just got into this combine. Are you thinking like I've never been on a bobsled before? Like, is there that reservation of like, what if I hate this? Like, what if this is
Yeah.
not for me? But you just keep going. You
Oh
got
yeah. I would. So they invited me to come to Park City, Utah, for a month and to try driving. And so I show up there. I'm with all these people that have never done the same thing. So we're all nervous, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna go on a track walk." And what that means is you're gonna put these ice spikes on. You're gonna walk from the top of the track down, and the drive up is the steep mountain. And you're like, "Whoa, whoa, wait!" I start up there, and I finish down there in 50 seconds. And we're walking it, and you see these like 10 feet high ice walls, and you're like standing, and you're like, wait, I'm gonna be sideways all the way up there. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and I'm gonna be controlling this with bungee cords and pulling the bungee cords to rotate the front axle. Yeah. Okay. And it's really cold. So what kind of clothes do I wear? Oh, like just like leggings, tights, and like a tight t-shirt. Okay, but it's really cold. Yeah, but you need to be aerodynamic. But you have a helmet on, you'll have a mouth guard on. It'll be fine. And the night before, I don't know how well I slept. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just gonna push me off of a bobsled. Like I'm literally sink or swim, like figure it out. And that's what why the sport is so unique and so niche is so many people will try it and hate it. People are like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this ever again. This is scary. And we don't blame those people because it is. It takes a little bit of a crazy person to be like, this is awesome. Like, let's keep doing this. Like, I want to keep going faster and breaking new miles an hour and going to different tracks all around the world and seeing and competing against people to a thousandth of a second. It's unlike anything that I could possibly explain. A little bit of a roller coaster, but yeah, the fear aspect was definitely always there.
so it was that first time on the bobsled, you were kind of hooked. You're like, I love it.
Yes, I got down the first time, and I think there's just so much emotions that I was like holding in, and I finished, and I'm like woohooing. I'm like, woo, yeah, like let's go round two. Like let's okay, I'm hooked. I'm in. I mean, I like to tell people looking at my life, I joined the Marine Corps. I went skydiving. I go cliff jumping. Like I like adrenaline, like that stuff. I typically enjoy, and this gives me some of that, but a little bit of a different, harder feedback, because when you fail, you quite frankly smack your head, go down the whole way, on your head, not knowing where you are. It's like a car crash that like never ends, essentially, when things go bad. But it's like, yeah, there's danger and there's things that like are fearful, but I love having to perfect myself constantly and study and compete and to see like how can I even gain 100th of a second of an advantage over other people? How can I study this? How can I improve? It's this game that I'm like hooked on, of like constantly wanting to make these small adjustments to be the best.
I love it. Do you think that I would not classify myself as an adrenaline junkie. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like heights. I've never skydived. Like that is not my thing. I have physical reactions to like fast moving things. Like I would be the one in the bobsled, like on the trial, and my eyes would roll back in the back of my head and I'd start fainting, like that's when you see those people that do like the slingshots up and they like immediately like pass out, or skydiving, like that would be me, or I imagine that would be me. But I am an adventure junkie. Like I'm always seeking out new adventures and new things. Like I want to try everything. Except skydiving. I really don't have a desire to try skydiving, but I often wonder, like, can you train yourself? Because I wasn't somebody that was always, I think when I was younger, I think I was actually a little bit more risk adverse. I wasn't somebody that was like automatically wanted to try something new. And I wonder, like, do you think that can be taught? Do you think that's something that you can actually train yourself to kind of seek out adventure and things that like bring that rush of adrenaline? I get those rushes of adrenaline. I just get them in a different way. Right. And so I like to put myself in like real uncomfortable situations and be like, all right, how are you going to operate in this? But I constantly have people that are like, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I just do it. I don't know. Like, I just do it. I can't kind of explain like, this is the practice that I decide to like get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. I think that's a lot of what you have to do if you want to not live kind of a stagnant life, essentially.
What you just said, we're like speaking the same language here. I always say you need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And is there a way to really practice it? I don't think there's a generic standard way of, hey, this is a self-help book on how to become more adventurous or how to find the best out of yourself. My initial thought process, I have two main thoughts here. The first one is I've noticed, what is preventing people from doing things that they never thought that they would? What is stopping people from achieving dreams and goals that they have? And I think, in my opinion, and that I've seen, is so much of it is self-doubt and caring so much about what other people think and letting that stop you. And I tell people all the time, I've seen so many people stop themselves instead of other people stop them. And what I mean by that is, so many people would tell me, Riley, why do you want to become a Marine? Like, aren't you worried? Like, you're going to be the only female. Like, it's really male dominant. Like, I don't know. Well, you don't think those thoughts were in my head as well? You don't think I didn't stop and think, wait a minute, less than 6% of women or 6% of officers are women in the Marine Corps. You don't think I stopped to say, this is a male dominant culture. You didn't stop, and I don't think I looked around at OCS and been like, I don't fit in. I have long blonde hair. I'm very bubbly. I like to be girly. I mean, I can turn it on. Don't get me wrong. I'll go and I'll fight with the rest of y'all. But yeah, and so many people let that stop them. So many people tell themselves no. So many people are like, get in their own way from doing things because of self-doubt and what other people think. And the way I try to live my life is, I'd rather someone else tell me no, and I'll still tell them that I'm going to do it. But I'd rather someone else be the one to try to stop me than let myself stop me. And so when people said I couldn't become a Division I softball scholar or get a Division I softball player, I said, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. Not because I care about you, but because I know that I can't. When someone said I can't become a Marine because I was a female, I said, okay, don't try to tell me what I can and cannot do. Watch me, because I will. When someone told me I don't know about this whole bobsled thing. You were already a softball player. You've never done it. You'll never make it. You're not athletic enough, whatever. Okay, watch me. I will. When someone said I can't balance a career and pursue sport at the same time because it's never been done before by a female Marine, watch me. I will. And I'm not going to let people stop me. And like you said, put yourself in hard situations. And I constantly have this conversation with my family and my friends, my parents, is I'm convinced that the way to build resiliency is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations that are hard. And ask yourself that if anyone's listening to this, like, what is the last hard thing that you've overcome or had to go through? When was that event? And there's people that can't even recall, or 6 years ago when this happened.
Right.
Dang, are you really challenging yourself? And it can be small. I had a hard workout. I challenged myself to run a marathon. That was hard. I had to overcome a death in the family. I had to overcome any bad situation, and that builds you up. That gives you, like I said, I read David Goggins and also like that gives you a cookie in the cookie jar. Like I got through something, so I can get through something else.
Yeah.
And because I got this, I can get through something else now. And the confidence that instills. So yeah, if you look at successful women, such like yourself, Ryan, and you're like, how did you get here? It's by making those little decisions to put yourself in situations where you can fail, where you could be vulnerable, and where you could get hurt, not just physically, but emotionally. And then you come out stronger on the other side. And people are like, how did you become where you are now? It's those little decisions that you make constantly along the road.
Absolutely. I always say, when I'm talking to kids, and out talking to like high school kids and college age kids, and I'm talking about Travis, I always say like he was big in the little things. And because he was big in the little things, he was able to be even bigger in the big moments when it counts. And, when you talk about resilience, there's like, can you build resilience? Absolutely. Can you build yourself to be a resilient person? I 100% believe that you can. And there's two pieces around that. There's the circumstances that happen to you that are unplanned and I never thought about building my resilience. Frankly, I never even thought about the word resilience before my brother Travis died. That was a circumstance beyond my control that happened to me that I was forced to become resilient. But that could have been a circumstance that happened to me 15 years ago that I did nothing after that. That I said, okay, if I come back from the loss of my brother, but I did nothing beyond that to build my resilience going forward. So I absolutely agree that, you can become resilient based off life circumstances, but you also have to put yourself in positions to become resilient. And you can test your resilience by going out and doing things that require you to be resilient, to jump on that bobsled and decide I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to see what happens. You can call it adrenaline junkie. And to some level it is, but it's also like, I'm going to build my resilience right here because I'm going to take that leap off that mountain and I'm going to see what happens. I love that. And, and here you are today. And you're on the path to hopefully being on the road to compete in the 2024 Olympics, correct?
The 2026. Yeah.
Oh,
so the 2024 summer, but yeah, that's the big end goal. That's the dream, is to become and be the first female Marine Olympian. That has not been done before. And I've told myself that's what I'm going to work for. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that I couldn't have inspired people on the way. It doesn't mean that I wasn't resilient along the way. But again, heck yeah, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to give everything I have to make that team. And if I don't make that team, then you best believe my teammates, I'm going to be right there supporting them along the way because I want my best versus their best. And if their best trumps me, heck yeah, go Team USA. And I'm coming for you the next quad. And I'm going to come and find something else and keep working and keep improving. Too many people limit themselves. Too many people say that could never happen. No, it can. There's some things. Okay, sure. But stop limiting yourself because you're scared of the outcome. And I can tell you right now, I may listen to this in 5 years from now after 2026 and be like, man, it would have been so cool to be on again with Ryan and be like, Ryan, I did it. I made it to the games. I lived it out. And there's a chance that I come back and people listen to this be like, oh, that Riley girl? Yeah, she never made it. But either way, I'm going to keep pursuing my life and myself as if that is happening. And I'm going to plan as if it is. And I'm not going to be scared of what people think of me, of failure, of letting people down by not making it. No, F that. I'm going to keep charging because that's what makes me strong. That's what makes me resilient. And if I don't make it, cool. Add that adversity and see how I'm going to get over it because I'm going to be even stronger then.
Well,
So,
absolutely. I think,
yeah.
I am hopeful that you're coming on here after the 2026 Olympics and we're having that conversation about what it was like competing at that level. But the fact of the matter is that if it doesn't happen, that's another story to tell. And that's another way that you're growing personally. So it's all a part of the journey, right? And that's how you have to look at it. But you were just named the 2022 Female Marine Athlete of the Year. Is that correct?
I was.
That's
Yes.
cool.
It was incredible. I knew that I had to pack anything the Marine Corps awards, any of that kind of stuff. It's not always very secretive because it takes so many people in a chain of command to be given different awards. And so at first I won Camp Pendleton and then I won overall Marine and female Marine. And the male counterpart was actually a staff sergeant who was in the Olympics for wrestling for the Marine Corps. And he did go to the games in Tokyo, which was awesome. And so to share that award with him is an honor and a blessing. But yeah, it's so crazy walking around base and Marines recognizing me for that and telling me, ma'am, how did you do that? Yeah. Could you think I could do this sport? Or do you think I could do this? And I'm like, I have won. Not because I have a trophy that sits on my desk. I have won because I've had people question themselves, can they do multiple things while being active duty now? And it doesn't always have to be sport. Can I be a parent and be active duty as a female? Can I go to college and get my degree while being active duty? Can I get my real estate license? Can I do things that I have desired on while I'm already doing something that's awesome and cool? Absolutely. Again, don't limit yourself. And I tell people this all the time. One of the greatest days of my life that I can remember was when I was handed my Eagle Globe and Anchor and I finally earned it. And I had like a small tear down my face. And I'm trying, to keep my bearing and not show anything, but I'm like, wow, like I did it. And that day is something, and that accomplishment is something that will never be taken away from me. But it didn't stop there. I'm going to keep earning it. I'm going to keep being the best version of myself. I'm going to keep being the best for my Marine. So that means that I need to keep finding ways to improve myself. And it doesn't always it doesn't always have to be sport. For me, it's sport because it's something that I speak that language and it's something that I know and I'm comfortable and familiar with. But similar to Jackie and what we were talking about, there's a group of us that are like, we as women need to do our role to show other young girls that there are military females out there and that this is a job for you. We want to be able to reach people on all levels and be like, wow, I can relate to her. I could see myself like her. She paved a way. And something I always tell people is there's several times when I felt like as a female, I didn't have a seat at the table. And I felt like people thought that I had to change who I was to like fit into this culture and just really trying to show people like, hey, being in the military where women are completely outnumbered in the minority, no, you have a seat and you can be who you want to be. You don't have to act like a male. You don't have to talk in a deep voice and yell and knife hand all the time. Like that's maybe a part of it, but if that's not who you are, you don't have to do that. Or for me, hey, like after college sport was over, like people are like, yep, right, that's the road. Like you get what you get out of college. That's it. Athletics are done. Heck no, I can go and I can pursue and I can show people, hey, you want to be a multiple sport athlete? You want to try a sport that you've never done before? Yeah, there's a seat at the table for you. Like that is my goal, is to show people like where maybe we don't feel comfortable, we felt like we fit in, is like becoming and normalizing that so that people don't have as much difficulty going through that same process. And I think it's super special, women helping women and building each other up in those means to be able to accomplish things that and go to places that we haven't been before.
I love it. Your perspective is so refreshing. And it's, again, for me, as the mom of someone who is going to be heading off to a service academy, to see role models like yourself. You know, I don't know what her future has in store for her, but you know, ask her what she wants to do after the Naval Academy, you know, what service she's wants to go into. It's right away like, well, Marine, you know, and you know, that's the path that she sees for herself. And you know, that path was only, I can't say that path was made because of her Marine Corps family. In fact, I think that actually deterred her for a while, but it's women like you that have helped her to see that path and that perspective. And it's just incredible. I love talking to you. I love your perspective. I think you're going to kill it. I have no doubts that we're going to see you competing in the 2026 Olympics. And I'm going to be like, I know that girl. It's awesome to talk to you. You know, I always end my podcast with, what does resilience mean to you? Kind of answered that. I mean, you definitely answered that. But is there anything as we conclude today that you can say or speak to about what it means to live a resilient life?
I would like to say, first of all, it's a choice. It's a choice. Do I feel resilient every single day with hard circumstances and adversity that comes my way? No. And is there times where, real talk, like I need a moment, I need to cry, or I need to be emotional, and I feel sorry for myself for 5 seconds? Yeah, that happens. I'm human. I feel those things. But it's, what do you do next? And what are the next steps? And it's perspective. I can look at my life falling apart and the adversity, and why is it so hard, and why am I failing, and why am I being rejected, or any of those things. And I can look at this and be like, okay, I can either take this as a blessing and look at it of good. Now I can be redirected on the path I'm supposed to be. Or I can take this and play the poor me card and mope and complain and feel sorry for myself and not make a change. And so with this, it's a choice. And it's a choice anyone can do. You don't have to be in the military to be resilient. You don't have to be of a certain age. You don't have to experience a certain life to do these things. It's a choice that you make every day. It's how you see your circumstance, so that one day you can look back and be like, yep, if that hard thing didn't happen, I wouldn't have gotten through this, and I wouldn't have gotten through this. And so to characterize it all, you also don't have to be resilient by yourself. I think that is a big thing, especially as women and other people that I've seen in Marines as a whole struggle with, is feeling that they have to attack everything on their own. And I just want to say, like, to anyone out there, you'd be surprised of how many people want to fight alongside you, whatever you're going through, and you are so loved and cherished and cared about, and you're part of a community that people want to help you. So don't feel like it's a battle that has to be fought 1v1. Get people on your side, get the numbers, and start just attacking that enemy of whatever that is.
I love it. And I think that in itself, like, what does living a resilient life look like? It's a choice. And it is. It's a choice that we have to make every single day. You know, are we going to not push ourselves to be resilient? And great words, awesome stuff. We'll be cheering for you. You're in Germany now. Are you competing? When do you compete?
So I compete Saturday and Sunday, but so it's January now. My season goes up until March, and then we break, and then we start back up again in October. So October to March is racing season. It's winter, so that's easy to remember. But if you follow me on social media, I always post where you can watch. It's televised, our races, or you can go back and follow them on YouTube afterwards. But yeah, we're in the midst of race season. I can't wait to see what we can do and continue to represent the USA.
Yeah, well, we're going to be cheering for you. We'll definitely post, maybe we'll put some links to some of your videos on our YouTube page. And can't thank you enough, Riley. Awesome conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time all the way from Germany to come and speak with us. And thanks all of you for the first episode of 2023 of the Resilient Life podcast, kicking off a new year with an awesome conversation. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thanks so much, Riley.
Thanks, Ryan.